It started like any ordinary Saturday morning. The sun barely peeked over the treetops, casting long, golden shadows across the sleepy town of Pinewood. Emma and Lily Carter, inseparable twin sisters, grabbed their backpacks filled with snacks, water bottles, and notebooks, ready for a small adventure in the nearby forest. Their parents reminded them to stay on the marked trails and be back by noon, but the girls, full of youthful excitement and curiosity, promised they would. The forest had always been their playground. Dense trees, hidden streams, and secret clearings where they loved to explore. But no one could have imagined what would happen next. As the girls disappeared into the shadows of the towering pines, the morning calm began to feel off. Birds fell silent, and a faint wind seemed to whisper through the branches. By the time their parents realized they had been gone longer than promised, panic set in. They called out the twins' names, but only the echo of their own voices returned. The local authorities were notified, and soon a search party of volunteers, police, and neighbors swarmed the forest, flashlights cutting through the thickening underbrush, hoping for a sign, anything that could lead them to the girls. Hours turned into an agonizing day, and as night fell, the forest seemed to swallow all traces of Emma and Lily. Search dogs barked at shadows and pawed at empty patches of dirt. Helicopters hovered overhead, their spotlights scanning the dense treetops. But there was nothing, no footprints, no torn branches, no backpacks, no jackets, nothing to explain the sudden disappearance. Friends and family were left clinging to hope, while a creeping dread began to settle over Pinewood. It was as if the girls had vanished into thin air, leaving behind only the haunting silence of the forest. Weeks after Emma and Lily vanished, the forest that had once seemed familiar to the townspeople began to feel different. Hikers reported strange occurrences that made their skin crawl. Footsteps in places where no one should have been, faint whispers drifting through the trees, and fleeting shadows darting between the trunks. Even the birds seemed uneasy, their calls sharp and anxious. Locals started avoiding the trails at dusk, telling stories of a presence that lingered in the deepest parts of Pinewood Forest. It was as if the forest itself was hiding something, watching and waiting. Then came the first tangible clue, a single red jacket snagged on a low, hanging branch. It was Lily's. The volunteers who found it froze in shock, hearts pounding, unsure whether to feel relief or dread. There were no signs of struggle nearby, no footprints leading away, nothing to explain how it got there. The jacket hung as if it had been deliberately placed, almost like a message or a warning. From that moment, whispers of something unnatural began circulating in the town. Some claimed the forest had claimed the twins, while others refused to speak of it, too afraid that mentioning the girls' names might awaken whatever lurked inside. Strange sightings grew more frequent, each one more unsettling than the last. Hikers reported catching glimpses of a small figure moving behind trees, only for it to vanish when approached. Sounds of laughter, high-pitched and eerie, echoed through the woods at times when no one else was around. Even the seasoned park rangers began carrying flashlights and radios on daytime patrols, uneasy about what they might stumble upon. Every clue pointed to the same terrifying possibility. Something beyond understanding had taken the twins, and the forest was leaving behind cryptic signs, taunting the people who dared to search for answers. 2 months after the disappearance, the forest seemed quieter than ever, almost unnaturally so. The search parties had thinned, leaving only a few dedicated rangers combing the dense underbrush. One late afternoon, Ranger Tom Hargrove, a veteran of countless searches, noticed something unusual. A faint glimmer of red among the fallen leaves deep in a secluded part of the forest. As he pushed through the thick brush, his heart began to race. There, curled up beneath a giant oak, was Emma. She was pale, trembling, barefoot, and clutching something tightly to her chest. It was Lily's jacket, worn and tattered, but unmistakably hers. Emma's eyes were wide with terror, darting around the forest as if expecting something or someone to emerge from the shadows at any moment. She didn't speak, not at first. The ranger tried to calm her, but her gaze was fixed on a narrow, hidden path that led further into the woods. It was overgrown, almost swallowed by the forest itself, and yet Emma pointed insistently, her hands shaking as if begging someone to follow. The air around them felt thick and heavy, as though the trees themselves were holding their breath. Ranger Hargrove could feel the weight of something unseen pressing in from all sides, but he knew one thing for sure: this forest had secrets, and Emma was carrying the key. As she finally whispered broken words, the ranger caught fragments of a story that made his blood run cold. She spoke of a dark figure, always watching, always following, and how Lily had been taken when Emma wasn't looking. For weeks, she had survived alone, navigating the forest with only her wits and her sister's jacket, hoping that someone would eventually find her. Every night had been a battle with hunger, fear, and the unseen presence that haunted every shadow. Emma's voice trembled as she described the sounds in the night, whispers that called her name, footsteps that echoed too close behind, and glimpses of movement that vanished whenever she tried to confront them. Following the hidden path Emma had indicated, Ranger Hargrove and a small search team ventured deeper into the forest than anyone had dared to go in months. The trees grew thicker, their branches twisting like skeletal arms, and the sunlight barely pierced the canopy. The air was heavy with the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves, and every step seemed to echo unnaturally loud. It was there, amid the dense shadows, that they discovered strange carvings etched into the bark of ancient trees, symbols that made no sense, but radiated a chilling, almost deliberate energy. The forest felt alive, as though it was warning them to turn back. As they pressed on, they stumbled across remnants of a small campsite, rudimentary shelters made of branches, scraps of cloth, and scattered personal items. Everything looked abandoned, yet carefully arranged, as if someone or something had been living there recently. Emma's trembling hands pointed to a corner where the ground had been disturbed, as though footprints had been pressed deep into the soil, leading away into the darkness. Every instinct screamed that this was where Lily had been held, yet no trace of her remained. The eerie silence was occasionally broken by distant rustling and faint whispers, sounds that seemed to drift from one tree to another, never revealing their source. The deeper they went, the more Emma's story began to unravel the terrifying truth. She spoke of nights spent hiding in the underbrush, of shadows that moved with intent, and of an unseen presence that always seemed to watch from the edges of her vision. It was as if the forest itself had claimed her sister, reshaping reality within its borders. Every carved symbol, every hidden path, and every strange sound felt deliberate, like a maze built to confuse and trap anyone who dared enter. Emma clutched Lily's jacket tighter, eyes wide with fear. As she tried to convey that whatever had taken her sister wasn't just human. It was something far older, something that thrived in darkness, and something that had no intention of letting them leave easily. Despite weeks of searching, Lily was nowhere to be found. The forest seemed to swallow any trace of her existence, leaving only Emma and her vivid, terrified recollections. But even in her rescue, the horror wasn't over. Emma began hearing things, soft whispers calling Lily's name, long after leaving the forest. At first, her parents thought it was trauma, the imagination of a child who had survived unimaginable fear. But Emma insisted that the voice came from outside her bedroom window at night, faint yet unmistakable, as if her sister, or something pretending to be her, was trapped just beyond reach. Locals whispered about the Pinewood Forest, claiming it had a dark history. Long before Emma and Lily disappeared, old newspaper clippings told stories of children vanishing and never returning, of strange lights seen dancing between the trees, and of a shadowy figure glimpsed by those brave, or foolish, enough to wander too far. The townspeople began locking their doors at night and warning visitors to stay away from the forest, as if they sensed that whatever took Lily was still waiting, patient and hungry, within the twisted maze of trees. Emma's eyes never left the forest edge, haunted by memories too sharp and vivid for anyone to ignore. Even though Emma had survived, she carried an unshakable fear that lingered like a shadow. Every creak of a floorboard, every rustle outside her window, made her heart race, as if the forest itself was testing her, reminding her that Lily's disappearance wasn't just a tragedy, it was a warning. Friends and neighbors began noticing the change in her demeanor, quiet moments staring at the woods, sudden flinches at the smallest sound, and a constant, desperate clinging to Lily's jacket, which had become her talisman against the unseen. And while she physically escaped the forest, a piece of her, or perhaps a piece of the forest, remained trapped there, echoing the terrifying truth that some shadows never leave and some mysteries are far from solved. As the sun sets over Pinewood, the forest seems to whisper secrets no one can fully understand. Emma survived, but Lily, she was never found. And some nights, when the wind rustles through the trees, you can almost hear a faint voice calling from the shadows, begging to be found. The townspeople say the forest isn't done yet, that it still holds its secrets tightly, and that anyone who dares enter might never come back. So the next time you hear a rustle in the woods, or catch a glimpse of movement in the corner of your eye, remember this: some mysteries aren't meant to be solved. Some shadows never leave, and some sisters may still be out there waiting.
If you liked this video, don't forget to hit that like button, share it with your friends, and drop your thoughts in the comments below. Most importantly, subscribe and hit the bell icon so the next secret finds you first.